Helen. Helen, stop! Helen!
Stop it, Helen.
Why she stick her fingers in my
All day, but you can't hear nothing.
If she can't hear, then how she know talk coming out of my mouth? But then she trying to talk. Now she going crazy, eating herself.
Stop that. Helen, stop it. Helen, Helen, stop it. Oh,
Hello, Sexy Blue. This is Mr. Omega Sumbati talking to you. Uh, Today, inshallah, we're going to talk about the story of my life by Helen Keller. As you saw in the first part of this movie, this was part of her life of Helen Keller. So we are studying this lesson in literature in Unit 7, titled Biography and Autobiography. And you can find this page of this lesson in page 834. So before we go to anything about the story of my life, about Helen Keller, so we need to go here and cover this part. So the title is From the Story of My Life, and the author is Helen Keller. The genre of this kind of literature is autobiography, and the setting is the Keller home in Alabama, a state in the United States of America. When exactly? It was in March 1887. So there is a summary, but as we mentioned the word autobiography, we can just have this kind of introduction for autobiography. So autobiography is the story of a person's life written by that person. So for example, I can write down the story of my life and make one chapter for like my teaching for sixth blue, for example. What did I find in class? How did I like deal with them in the first time? How did I like them, and so on. So this is called autobiography when I talk about my life by myself in a written form. Okay, what are the characteristics of autobiographies? They are told from the first person point of view. By the first person here, we mean using the pronoun I. For example, I talk about myself and I say, I started teaching sixth blue in the second semester, the academic year 2019-2020. I like the situation there and so on. So I start to say my experiences and so on. So this is about me, the first person, not the second one, not the third one. So it also includes descriptions of people and events that influenced the writer. So when I start to talk about the most important day that happened to me with sixth blue, for example, that it was in the championship that they had at school in the football league and so on. So and then I start to talk about the players or the students of 62 and so on. Now I'm talking about people and event, and this like expresses also part of autobiography. Again, if I share my personal thoughts and feelings about his or her experiences, so if I give like a summary or just points about what did I feel during being in sixth blue, what were my thoughts about them and about teaching them, my personal thoughts and so on, this is also part of the text analysis. So guys, I have uploaded you on the Windigo. You can find if you open your account on Windigo, you can find two sheets to work on. We have text analysis and we have reading strategy. Again, this is about the autobiography and so on. So when you read the story starting from page 834, you need to read the full story and then you need to answer these points. So in the directions here, he's saying in the chart, this chart, record examples of each element of an autobiography from the story of life. An example has been done for you. So we have some points, just 3 points here to cover and to answer, and we have the first one already answered. So the elements of text analysis, which are these three characteristics or three elements. So it is like first person point of view. For example, when I finally, this is in the text, when I finally succeeded in making the letters correctly, I was flushed with childish pleasure and pride. I was flushed with childish pleasure and pride. This is an expression that means that she was so happy for being able to make the letters correctly. Now, the second point is descriptions of people and events that influence the writer. So you need to check in the text, starting from page 834 in your textbook, you need to find descriptions of people and events that influenced the writer. What actions or events that happened to her, and who did they met, so they both of them influenced her, and so on. Bring example from the context like this one. The next one, which is the third one, the writer's thoughts and feelings. Just get out some examples where she tries to express her feelings and thoughts and so on. If we go to the reading strategy part, reading strategy, here we're applying a new skill called monitor. So what's monitoring? Monitoring is the process of checking your understanding you read, as you read. Again, the process of checking your understanding as you read. So one way to do this checking or monitoring is to ask questions about what you have read. So you need to read the text and then start to set some questions for yourself to make sure that you understand what you have read. So here in the directions he's saying in the first column, this one, record passages or parts or like text from like small parts of the text from Helen Keller's autobiography that you find confusing. So you're not sure that you understand it correctly or not. In the second column, write a question about each passage, the passage that you write down here. This is an example, and it says, anger and bitterness had preyed upon me. Now she is saying this, and we need to answer ourselves. Anger and bitterness. So why is Helen Keller so bitter and angry? So read the whole text and try to figure out this one. And then you choose a text that you feel that you're confused while reading it, and then put down a question that may help you answer and understand this context and so on. This is the second sheet that I want you to fill down, and try to read the text first again and then get out the point that you don't understand here, the reading context, and then put a question that may understand you, may help you understand this part or this passage. So now the two main sheets I want you to work on, and you can find on your Windigo account. So for example, if you go to Windigo now, we can find here the reading strategy part and the text analysis part or sheet. Okay. After that, we have the vocabulary section. So we have this sheet of vocabulary study. In this sheet, you're going to be introduced to only 5 new vocabulary that you can face or you can like have in the text while reading the story of my life or from the story of my life of Helen Keller. So we have the first word, consciousness. We have repentance. We have sensation, tangible, and uncomprehending. So here is like giving you an example of each word. Okay, so and then in the second one he wants you to apply this. This is also a kind of assignment. I'm going to send you or upload you this sheet into Winjigo so you can find it. So here he wants you to write down, like to fill in this schedule. Example, consciousness, is it new for you or not? Say yes or no. Seen before, just make a tag or say yes. Can you use in a sentence? Yes, and put it in a sentence from your own. And then tell us what is the possible meaning of this word. If you're not able to guess the meaning, just simply go to Google, for example. If you don't have Longman, so on Google, you simply write down the word um, tangible, for example, and we write down meaning, and then I check any dictionary that I have online. We have vocabulary.com, we have dictionary, Cambridge Dictionary, we have Merriam-Webster Dictionary, we have many dictionaries. That's great. So back to the vocabulary sheet, I'll try to like fill into these items and so on. After that, I have vocabulary practice, where I have the 5 vocabulary items, and then I need to put them in the like correct context of each of the 5 sentences. And then I have another exercise which says for each word in the first column, this one, find the word or phrase in the second column that's close to the meaning. Now, after you go to the dictionary online, now you know the meanings, you can choose the meanings of the words. And finally, number C is saying, or letter C is saying you use 3 of the words from the books in a sentence that shows its meaning. Again, use 3 of the words from the books in a sentence that shows its meaning. So only 3 vocabulary that I use from this box to put them in one sentence that explain the meaning. So now we're done with the vocabulary, new vocabulary that can help us understand the meanings and so on. And if you face any other vocabulary, you can just Google it the way I showed you a while ago. So now time for the summary about the story of Helen Keller. So seeing here, this excerpt from Helen Keller's autobiography tells about Helen's first meeting with her teacher. And the teacher name was, or the teacher name is Miss Anne Sullivan, and Miss Anne Sullivan spills the names of familiar objects into Helen's hands, while Helen touches the object. At first, this seems like a game to Helen. She's just playing. She doesn't know what the woman is doing to her, what's the teacher doing to her. She doesn't understand that the finger motion, the move of your finger, how you move your finger and just draw letters and so on, she doesn't understand it. She thought it was only a kind of game and so on. So the motion spelled the names of the objects. She didn't understand this. So we stop here. We do not complete until we see this part of the movie again. So I recommend you to watch that full movie. It makes you understand the story even before reading the story. It helps you a lot to understand what's the whole story about. So let's now watch part of the first meeting and how did the teacher try to teach her new vocabulary, how was Helen's reaction, and so on.
Of course. Those are mine. Yes, yes. All right then, Helen. Doll will be your first word. It's as good as any. D. O. L. L. Doll. Doll. It has a name. D. O. L.
So as you saw in the video, she tries to touch her new vocabulary through like using letters by like hand and then touching her palm and so on. So this was one part or one stage of Helen Keller's life with her teacher. Okay, we complete and say one day Miss Sullivan leads Helen to the well. She holds Helen's hand under the spout. As the water runs over Helen's hand, Miss Sullivan spills out the word water into Helen's other bowl. So what does it mean well? What does it mean well? What does it mean spout? What does it mean ball? So you can find pictures of such words. For example, this is a well. So it's some kind of source of water. And as we can see here, these are examples of well and so on. So she took her to this place, a well like this, and she started to get water out of a spout, which is like this one. These are examples of spout, like this one, and that one, and so on. The part that of the tape or of the palm. So, and she starts to teach her like on her handball, using motions and so on. So they use the ball of the hand to like use it and to explain the words and so on with the other hands. Okay. So suddenly, Helen understands the connection between the letters and the object. So I'm going to show you the part of the movie about this scene, but I just want you, before this, we go back to another sheet, which is question support. We need to answer these questions after reading the whole story. So now we're doing the text analysis, the reading strategy, the question support, and the vocabulary study and practice as kind of sheets. We read the story and we answer these questions. So I hope that this video facilitates you studying the story of my life of Helen Keller. And I'm going to end with the video or the part of the video that explains um, this last scene between Mrs. Sullivan and Helen Keller. Thank you so much and see you tomorrow, inshallah.
Here we are. You recognize this place? No. Your mother's. Not here. Come. Yes. Water. It has a name. Water. Yes. Yes. Water.